Back to John McLean. Lane left point. T-Shot shoots it, deflected right in. Peter Angelo save rebound. Stastny stopped by Peter Angelo. I don't believe that save. Neither does Peter Stastny. He can't believe the save that Peter Angelo just made on him. As Frankie sparkling on that maneuver there to stop and rob Peter Stastny. He should get 5 to 10 for that. Huh.
Well, Preston, hey, thanks for joining me on the podcast. It's good to have you on. One of the few non-goalies I've had on the podcast.
Oh yeah, well, I have played goal many times, so we can maybe I'm a little bit. I played goal.
Okay, well then, hey, all it takes is one time between the pipes, in my opinion. So
I fit in.
Yeah, you do. So the one thing I ask every guest, goalies and non-goalies, but you're a goalie. You fit that mold. How did you get started? I mean, you're originally from Calgary, so I mean, we could say, well, you're a Canadian, so it's a birthright. But how did you discover the game of hockey and get started in it?
So I actually grew up in Vancouver. I went to school in Calgary.
Okay, all right. I just was glancing over at the about page, the about page.
All good. I've been a hockey fan since the early 80s when I was a kid. I'm a Vancouver Canucks fan. I think I became a fan in '82 when they made their Stanley Cup run with Stan Smyl, Richard Brodeur, and I was like, why are these people putting flags on their cars? and that was kind of my birth of my hockey. No one else in my family were hockey fans, and so I lived through 92 and then 82 and 94. Those playoff runs, and I think that really is what ingrained me as a hockey fan. Following numbers, following stats, all that stuff as a kid that you do. And then playing hockey itself was later on in life when I was turned 30. And I didn't actually learn to skate till I was 30.
Oh, wow. So, well, let's back up a little bit. So, as you said, nobody is really a hockey fan in your family, but, here you are watching the Canucks. And I mean, I still remember sitting on the couch watching that 94 series. And at that point, I didn't care who won. I loved the Canucks logo at the time with the skate, but then watching Mike Richter play in that series, like, oh my God, as a hockey fan, it was such a great series. But, being the lone hockey fan in the family, what was that like? And, what did mom and dad think when you're like, I need to stay up late? Well, you were on the West Coast, so you never really had to stay up late to watch the games. But, what was their reaction to it?
They weren't really happy with that. I have Asian parents, so they actually was school. And anytime I'm watching hockey games or listening on the radio, it was not cool. But funny enough, all my family turned into hockey fans, all turned to Canucks fans. My dad, right up to when he passed away, was a diehard Canucks fan, and so we actually all learned to love the sports. We're all sporty in a way, so. So yeah, we all became sports fans over time, but I was kind of the pioneer in the family to become a Canucks fan or a hockey fan.
Well, that's cool. So, you say an Asian, I'm sure baseball was big in the family because that is a big sport over.
Incorrect, actually.
Really?
Tennis was the big. My dad played tennis every single day of his life from like 18 to 70 something. So I learned to play tennis. So tennis was big in our family. In Canada, baseball is not that popular. So I didn't learn to love baseball until far later in life too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because I know up in Vancouver, the Seattle Mariners are kind of the adopted team out that way. But no, that's cool. So, later on in life, you decide, what, I've been a hockey fan long enough. I want to try it out myself. What was that decision for you? And what was that like the first time going out on the ice, being like a baby deer out on the ice?
if a lot of people think of Canada as a hockey hotbed, but Vancouver itself, which is the weather is very similar to Seattle, where it's a lot of rain, very temperate climate. So there's just not a lot of hockey in that area. It's a lot like a lot of other temperate zones where the parents have to drive them to the rinks. There's no outdoor hockey. There's no, bring your skates to school like the rest of Canada has.
Yeah.
So I wanted to learn. And then funny enough, my older brother one day just said, I'm going to learn hockey. And I'm the younger brother, like, oh yeah, well, I'm more athletic and I'm going to learn it too. So we went out to the flea market and we bought, I think we spent $100 in total for all our gear. And we went and learned hockey, loved it to death. I was on the ice every day, I think between the age of 30 till 40 something. Every day, like it was just nonstop. I loved hockey, and I learned to play all the positions and do everything. And YouTube helps a lot when you're learning how to skate and all that stuff. So I became a hockey rink rat for a lot of my life.
And that's how it's got to be. But you mentioned getting out there with just cobbling together some equipment from the flea market. What was that first time on the ice like for you?
Oh yeah, it was frustrating because what you see on the ice looks so easy when you watch hockey your whole life, and you're like, skating backwards, no problem. Not realizing, you got to bend your knees, you got to keep your back straight. You got to learn to turn on all four corners of the edges, all four edges of your skate. It's not just snow plowing your way around. So it was wobbly, but I played a lot of sports growing up, and so just getting past that learning curve is really what was important.
Yeah. And it's funny because athletes, that first time it's like, ooh, this is different, but athletes pick it up pretty quickly. But, as we were talking earlier, you mentioned, you have thrown on the pads a time or two. What made you want to step between the pipes and stop the puck instead of shooting?
So in Canada, it's pretty easy to rent hockey. I ran my own team, and it was very easy to rent ice time. So if I didn't find an ice time, I would just rent the ice time, call up a bunch of people, and we would just get on the ice. I'd just say, hey, just throw $5 in the pot or bring a beer, and we would get ice. So I would rent ice all the time. And of course sometimes you can't find goalies. So what do? Is you get your own gear. And you're just like, hey, I can only find one goalie, so I'll just slap the gear on and learn to play. And again, there's it was a lot of fun. And at the time when I just started learning, a friend of mine was starting a new hockey league called Ice 604. And the whole idea was beginners can learn how to play hockey. And it was packed. There was I like to say there was 15 divisions right away of 10 teams. I was not the only one in my 20s, 30s that were Canucks fans that never learned to skate. So this league was built for people who wanted to learn how to play, and that was in a safe environment that was competitive, but was everyone can learn together. And being a goalie, being a rink rat, I would just jump around from teams to teams to teams. Everyone needed a goalie. And I was kind of right at that skill level where it would work. So that was a very cool league. And my friend still, I think it folded during the pandemic, but he ran that league for a long time.
That's awesome. And it's crazy when you're a goalie, how much ice time you could actually get. I have a kid I coached in high school. He texted me a couple times, this winter. He's like, hey, are you available tomorrow at noon? For a 3-on-3 skate, pretty good skate with some former pros. I'm like, you're asking me if I'm available in the middle of the workday for a skate on the other side of town? No. Do I want to be? Yeah. But there's just, I could skate 7 days a week if I wanted to, but I want to stay married, so I don't. But it's one of those where once you establish yourself and find that team, it's even better because I know at least once a week I have this skate. And it's one of those processes I'm getting very close to having to do again is we're getting ready to move out of state, and I'm going to have to just start, being that rink rat for a while until somebody asks if I want to be their full-time goalie.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm lucky I'm not married, and I have a job where I'm freelance at the time, and I'm an artist, as you know me.
Yeah.
So I always had time on my hands, and I always like, okay, I would always say, yeah, sure, 3 o'clock, yeah, I'll jump, I'll run out there. I go, I'll play, and then you're at the rink, and someone else would say, hey, we got the next rink across. When this game over, can you jump over there? I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. I'm already sweating, so I'm fine. It was a lot of fun. The goalie taught me how to skate. I feel like I became a better skater after I played goalie. I mean, people don't realize that goalies are one of the best skaters on the team.
Absolutely. And that's one thing whenever I say, oh, the goalie's best skater on the team, they're like, but you guys don't move. It's like, no, our skating is confined to a little box. It's not north and south like everybody else. And, you take those pads off of us and put us through some agility drills with the forwards, and we're going to make them look bad.
Yeah. I would say that I when I first learned to skate, skating is not gliding. Skating is about edges, and goalies know their edges. That's how you get around. So it's great.
Yeah, it is fun. So, we're, I will say, of the same vintage. So, we came up in an era when hockey was clutch and grab, but goaltending was very different than it is today. Goaltending in our youth was very much angles and getting in front of the puck, stopping it, where today it's very much, as I've talked with some other goalies, it's blocking. It's a little more. Yeah, it's positioning. I miss those old goalies. I think at times Fleury is still kind of shows flashes of that. Vasilevsky at times can be that reactive goalie. But you being a Canucks fan, Kirk McLean, God, was he fun to watch. When you play goalie, who would you say is kind of the one you try and model yourself after?
So I'm 5'8", so I guess we live in a world where butterfly 6 foot plus, dropping the butterfly, cover as much space as you can. I tried to do that. You can't do that as when you're 5'8".
Yeah.
So as a kid, you learn to play with athleticism, like and that's where when you were talking there, I'm thinking people don't understand Martin Brodeur and Hasek and even John Casey when they made that run way back in the land. Smaller goalies, just pure athleticism with the will to stop the puck. And that's kind of how I think I played. I had to learn that no, butterflying is not the way to go.
Yeah, I'm 5'10", so I'm not much taller than you, and I always think my style is kind of a mix between Cujo and Hasek, where a little bit back there in the net, and it's pure athleticism and reaction, but a little unorthodox like Hasek, where I'll be rolling around sometimes, just doing whatever I need to do to stop that puck.
It's funny, when I first learned to play goalie, I was thinking back, I was telling all the guys, just shoot at the net as much as you can. Yeah, I just want you to not miss the net, because I need to see a shot from every angle, you just learn to see where shots come from and how it comes off the puck. The puck comes off the stick. So I'll just shoot the puck as much as you can. I wanted to see as many pucks as I could.
Now, with your time in the net, but still primarily skating out, do you feel playing goalie has helped you as a player to understand, like you said, when to shoot the puck?
It does. Personally, I just found it little like back catcher and hitter. I always wonder why back catchers can't hit every single ball that
Me too.
Best in the league. It's because they can see it, but they can't hit it. That's how I feel a little bit. Yeah, I have a better understanding of the game as a goalie, but I don't think it really improved my shooting abilities, which is questionable at best. I'm a passer because not out of choice, but but I feel like playing goalie helped me. Playing goal, I mean, seeing the game is much better, understanding what the defense is doing, and I played a lot of defense later on, and I feel like understanding what the goalie is going through, vision wise, what they're thinking about at each position helps a lot as a goalie. That this guy standing in the net is not a problem, but that guy standing in front of the net is a problem. Those type of things you learn a lot.
Yeah, and it's always fun when I'm in the net trying to coach my defense and what to do, and they don't do it. I'm like, "Ah, come on, guys! Like I see what's coming behind you. I'm trying to help you." And it's
Yeah.
always funny too. Like between periods, I'll go to the bench and I'll try and tell them what to do with the goalie. You know that this last week, the goalie was okay with the first shot, but then he would, had terrible edge control and everything else. So I'm like, just don't try and get the perfect shot. Just put it on net and crash the net.
Yes.
We got a few of them, but it was like, I made it simple for you guys. Just do it. But they're still trying to do the standard beer league play of take the puck behind the net and pass it out. But when that happens, we take the puck behind the net and either A, lose it, or when we pass it out, the pass is to the wrong team.
Yeah.
So I'm like, just guys, just do what I say. Or, I'm always telling them, if you can't see the goalie, shoot the puck. Because if you can't see him, he can't see you.
You can't see you. True.
Yeah. And the hardest thing to do is stop the puck you can't see. In fact, 2 games ago, we tied the top team in the league. And it was only because the second goal was a shorthanded goal, but he was just crossing over in front of my defenseman and shot it at the right time, right between his legs. And I had about half a second to make the save because it's like I knew it was coming, but I had to be honest about the shot too.
Yeah. I thought another thing that I was thinking as you're talking is communication is something
Yes.
that goalie can help a defenseman a lot by just letting them know what's coming behind them, behind the net, what's going on in front of them, and vice versa. And I think when you watch a lot of NHL hockey, you don't realize how much they're communicating with each other on the ice.
Yeah.
But they're talking all the time.
Yep.
And as a goalie, I used to verbalize everything that's going on, because it doesn't matter if they know it or don't know it. If they don't know it, it's better I have said it. And I'm always talking on the ice.
Well, and even some of the nonverbal communication too. I know for me, if they're dumping the puck in, if I'm not going to play it, I'm just pointing to which side the puck's going, and just pointing, my D knows right away I'm not playing the puck. Those little nonverbal things that you start to pick up on when you start watching those NHL games is kind of fun too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember when I got to college, I sat down with my defenseman before my first game. I'm like, okay, so when I say take the puck on the odd man rushes, that means take the puck carrier. If I'm saying, no, what was it? No, if I said shot, it meant I have the shot, take the pass. If I said take the puck, to them it meant take the guy with the puck. I'm waiting for the
interesting.
The shit. So it was just making sure that what I was saying meant the same thing to them as well. Was always important. So it's not just what we're saying on the ice, but let's talk in the locker room to make sure we're on the same page. But in the beer leagues, that doesn't really matter because they're not going to listen to me anyway.
Of course not.
I've
kind of on the ice for 5 minutes, so they're already tired and they're not listening.
Yeah, exactly. But I've started realizing, like when my defense was skating the puck and I'm trying to tell them, take it behind the net, 9 out of 10 times they turn around and send it up the board. So I'm kind of thinking I need to adjust my communication and go with the reverse psychology and just put it up the boards. Maybe then they'll take it behind the net. I don't know. But I've said this on the podcast before. Our team has the motto: if nobody gets hurt and there's beer in the locker room afterwards, it's a victory regardless of what the scoreboard says.
Exactly. There you go. I'm glad you said that, because there are no scouts in the stands, and we all want to get to work the next day.
Yeah, there's no scouts in the stands, and they're not watching the live barn feed either. So there's been a few times where guys start to get pushy and hey, there you are. But guys will start to get a little pushy, and somebody always will shout out like, hey, we all have to work tomorrow. Let's cut it out. And there's been a time or two where, you can tell the guy's got fire in his eyes. He's wanting to fight. And all of a sudden he's like, yeah, I do have to work tomorrow. And it's really hard to explain to the boss why I'm walking into work with a black eye.
Yeah.
So for those that are just listening and aren't going to watch the video, Scott was able to get Preston was getting his video, finally got it up. So that's awesome. I had one of the New York Police Department goalies on that play in the rivalry game, and he couldn't figure out his camera. And finally he got it working, and we're talking, and I asked him, I was like, so what do you do in the police department? Because, working for New York, it's huge. There's so many specialties and everything else. And it turned out he was in surveillance, working with cameras. It's like, okay, let me get this straight. Like, you work with cameras all day and you couldn't get the camera on your computer working. It's like, how good are you at your job? And he's like, I know, I deserve all of the rubric I'm getting right now. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit. You're playing hockey, but along the way, you go to school. You're going to school, a technical school, as we mentioned it earlier, in Calgary for broadcast journal. I'm guessing broadcast journalism is what you went to school for.
Correct. So the idea was I wanted to, if I can't play the sport, I want to be in sports. So I wanted to, like, I at the time it was the Olympics, and I really, really thought, okay, well, if I'm going to go, I'm going to be in broadcast so I can actually attend every sporting event possible. That was the sort of theory.
So my major wasn't broadcast journalism because the school I went to just didn't have it. But my internship was at ABC News in Chicago. And it's funny because I got that internship playing hockey, because I would go home on break and I would skate at Johnny's Ice House down by the United Center. And one of the guys was one of the reporters, and I got to know him. And this is in the early days of email, and the late 90s, early 2000s, I just sent him an email like, hey, I want to intern at ABC. What do I do? And he got me in touch, and wouldn't you know, I became his intern for the summer. And
nice.
all these years. And it was funny because we would have the evening news that we would have to do. So we would start our day at the lunchtime rat hockey at Johnny's Ice House, shower up, then go into the studio. But all these years later, his son now is playing junior hockey and getting ready to go to Maine to play hockey next year. It's like, it's kind of cool how it just keeps going.
Full circle.
Yeah, exactly. But it was all because of hockey that I was able to get that internship. But God, did I learn so much that summer about, just what goes into a 30-minute news broadcast. Yes. I don't think people know the amount of work behind the scenes that happens, and just those little video clips of B-roll, like how that takes a while to get on, first of all, and there's times where you're out there and you get this great shot, you're like, it's gonna be great, and then you send it back to the studio and they use maybe a second and a half with it. It's like, oh my God, that's not what I want.
People wonder why there's mistakes on air, and you don't realize that people are counting in times. Everything's like to the second, like 30 seconds of black here, 5 seconds of black. Like there's just so many things going on in any broadcast. Things do get missed here and there. So
for the broadcast part of it, what were you studying and doing on the broadcast side?
I was a camera operator. I directed some newscasts, but mainly camera op. Surprisingly enough, I was very good at the graphic side of it. I did a lot of the graphic arts bits, but I was a terrible camera op. I worked for the local horse track for a while. That was my first job, and I don't know if you know, like, have you ever been to the horse racing? You're gonna need to zoom in, get as many horses in that shot as one of the far section. As they come around the pole, you have to widen out, and then when they're going full speed, you got to hit that stop, that whatever, I don't know what it called, the end zone, the end line. You have to like pan, then stop right there and let the horses run by. And I just couldn't do it to save my life. And there's people that have money on the line that need to see who finishes first. And I was terrible at it. So I dropped the camera gig. It wasn't for me.
When I was interning, it was funny because ABC in Chicago is a union shop, and almost every single one of the guys, when they saw there was an intern that day, they're like, you're carrying the camera, you're carrying all the, like, you're here to carry everything. But there was one guy, he very strict to the union rules. Like, he wouldn't even let me touch the camera. I was like, I'm just
Wow.
offering to carry stuff for you because you got your hands full. He's like, oh, no. But Rob, who I interned with, he kind of warned me ahead of time. So then it kind of became a joke between Rob and I, like just trying to offer to help pack things up or carry things. He's like, you can't touch it. You can't touch it. It's against union rules. It's like, yeah, but it's also just being a good human being trying to help somebody,
Sure.
but then there was another, consequently enough, a fellow by the name of Frank Rice, another goalie. Like, I remember the one day I got in the truck and he throws back the Pirani's hockey magazine, equipment magazine for me. He's like, I just got this in the mail. And the three of us, because we're all hockey players, we're just talking hockey the whole time in the truck as we go to like a murder scene or something. Yeah. So
Yeah.
along the way, you're working in, the broadcast side of things, but somewhere along the way, you just, start drawn and you realize I'm kind of good at this. I'm guessing even as a kid, you were always doodling.
Yes, I was always a creative when I was a kid. So basically what happened, I went from broadcast and I was clearly better at the graphics side of it. So I was doing a lot of graphics, online graphics, web design, and I was actually in online video world was my main job for a long time, broadcasting online.
Mm-hmm.
And I always at the side, I would always be illustrating this and that. And I always was drawn toward minimalism. So I did a bunch of these minimalist illustrations. And actually the first set I did is minimalist NHL logos. And this was in I would like to say early 2000s. I did these minimalist NHL logos. They went gangbusters. It was really popular. And then I got a cease and desist from the NHL.
Imagine that,
said,
right?
You can't be doing this. I remember cutting them. I had to like tell them how much I sold, give them all my profits, and I had to give it back and sign a letter. I'll never sell these again. So that was my first lessons into trademark and licensing with the NHL. Again, still working, doing my design work and everything, and trying to figure out another thing that I would draw. And then a couple years later, I decided to do these minimalist ballparks. And I thought that was, I actually did some research. And I go, okay, architecture cannot be trademarked. There's only a handful of buildings that can be trademarked. There's a lot of freedom of creativity with that. So I did the minimalist ballparks, and again, went gangbusters. It went like everyone was sharing it. It was on ESPN. It was being shared like.
That's how I found you. It was that great Wrigley Field one over your left shoulder that I was like, this is because I'm a Cubs fan. I grew up in Chicago, so I'm like, this is amazing. I love it.
I was in Deadspin. Deadspin was really big back then.
Yeah.
The Twins put the whole display on their wall, and then I got another call from the MLB lawyers, and there's a message on there that said, "We need to talk." And I was like, "Oh no, not again, not again." And I talked to my lawyer friend, and I said, before I talked to my lawyer friend, and they go, "You know what? It kind of doesn't matter. They have more lawyers than you, and they have deeper pockets than you. So if they don't want you doing something, they don't want you doing something.
Right.
That's just what it is." So he walked me through. So I called the lawyer back at the MLB, and they go, "We love this. How do we get this? How do we get this license? And how do we make this thing a big thing for you?" And I was a little taken back, and then I kind of that's where it all started. Essentially, the MLB opened a door that, and I've talked to other people over the years, and that's just not something the MLB does or any league does. They don't say, how can we help you?
Right. It's normally you have to go to them and jump through their hoops and pay them all the money.
Yeah. And it was a lot of money. I need to get investors at the beginning to actually get it up and running. Yeah. But at that point, I kind of made a call, and I quit my job, dropped all my contracts, and said, "This is what I'm going to do. If I fail, I fall on my face. At least I tried hard." And knock on wood, 10 years later, I'm still doing licensed artwork for the MLB and NHL now.
Okay.
Strange stories. Let me throw this back.
Yeah.
When I finally got licensed with the NHL, guess what? Guess the first thing I submit? The minimalist logos.
It comes full circle. So now I got to back up a second. When you say, you decide art full time, I know in the Asian culture how moms are when it comes to like one of my favorite comedians, first of all, is Joe Coy, and he's always talking about it. My cousin's married to a Filipino fella. One of my goalie partners is Korean. So I understand how Asian parents are with their kids. They want excellence. And I get it. As a parent, I get it. How did mom and dad take it when you called them and said, you know what? I am going to quit my job and do art full time?
So part of the whole sort of I wouldn't say that this whole concept of becoming an artist and exploring all came about actually when my right around when my father passed away. And I was about 40 at the time, and still kind of like going through life, sharing art and everything. And one of my last things my dad told me was, hey, if I were you and I weren't married and I don't have kids and I don't have I don't have a mortgage, I would explore and do a lot of other things. And I wouldn't stay in the same city. I would try I would just be more exploratory. And I think that resonated with me. And I think I actually attribute a lot of that to me having the wherewithal to just quit my job, do this. A great opportunity comes, and I attribute that to him. And I kind of wish that he saw this whole thing become a where it is right now, because he was a sports fan and he did become a Canucks fan, and he would have loved the fact that I was at the outdoor game and the NHL invite me to the All-Star games and all those type of things, going to World Series and seeing Stanley Cups. But that's a lot of him, and my mother, who's still here, she gets it, but she's just happy that I'm happy. Let me put it that way. I think she was hesitant at first, but she's just happy I'm happy.
Yeah, well, once you're able to prove that, hey, this is a good thing, I can provide for myself, and they see how happy you are, and I would say your dad's still seeing what you're doing. He's still happy for you, because not to go different ways, but we lost my mom about a year ago, almost now, and it's interesting because I've talked to Justin Goldman from the Goalie Guild about it, because and when that happens, you start looking at life a little bit differently, and you kind of notice some of those spiritual things that can't be explained. It's like, doesn't matter what faith you are, there's just those things you can't explain. And it's like, mom's there, dad's there, whatever it is. It's that loved one is, you feel their presence.
I agreed. I agree 100%. There's days where I'm on the plane, I'm thinking, Dad, you're watching me do this. This is awesome. So
yeah, exactly. It's like that great line from the movie Rudy when he's in the church talking to the priest, and the priest goes, "There's two things I'm certain in this world: there is a God, and I'm not him." that doesn't.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it's the one I'm praying to or what, but there's a God, and I'm not him. And there was a brother at the college I went to. He would always say, "Just look up at the night sky and tell me somebody didn't create that. Something didn't create that." It's like, yep, that's the way to look at it. So to backtrack, your dad's there to see it through. He's just seeing it from a different angle.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But so the MLB is like, hey, let's make this a reality. And the NHL, all of a sudden, they're like, now that we have your money, we want to license these so that we can partner on them. And then the NFL comes along, and the NBA, because you start doing the awesome mascot ones too. And
to clarify the kind of what I do, which is very unique. So I'm the only licensed NHL artist in there with all their licensees. As an artist, you can create art, and then they'll pay you to put it on a Topps card or put it on Upper Deck card or put it in stadium. And you're just an independent artist, and they you draw it, they give the rights to do it. I have the right to do whatever I want creatively. They just trust my license allows. I pay them a fair chunk of money to with the right that I can be as creative within my style and get it approved. And I just need to pay them a little bit of everything that I sell. So I'm one of 4 licensed artists with the MLB. The MLB only has 4 artists. NHL has me. That's it. It's quite a privilege. It's a very very unique position to be in. That I have those abilities to work within their brand and be creative.
Well, and along the way, it has evolved too, because you also do some Star Wars stuff. And George Lucas, he doesn't own the Star Wars stuff anymore, but he still has say in it. George Lucas and Disney are very tight in what they allow too.
Correct. So, and again, as an artist, I think I have a style that's resonates very well. The minimum's very clean, very, if you know it, you know it. It's very it's almost like a guessing game with art. And it could be applied to many things. I've been asked by the US Army to do battleships once, and cool. I was asked by Corvette to do minimalist cars once. There's lots of opportunities with my particular style. So I just pick it and choose. I'm a sports fan, and I think that resonates through my art. I'm not a Corvette fan, so I could have done it, but I'd rather be doing ballparks and mascots and all those things.
Well, and I love the ballparks because I've seen so many times on social media, there are fans that want to see every ballpark, and when they knock the ballpark off the list, they'll buy the print of yours that coincides with the ballpark. And I mean, it's not just MLB ballparks. You do college football state. There's a bunch of them. I'm right on the website right now, and there's just a ton of options there. But it's like they're just so clean, and like you said, you have a style. I've seen other artists try and do the minimalist and almost, I would say, copy you, and they don't. Sorry. No, don't worry about it. I usually have dogs barking in the background. And I've told my daughter, I said, if I had the office wall space, I would probably have most of your artwork just because it's awesome. But like you said, along the way, you're able to go to some of these NHL events, but in the summertime, you love to be outside at the ballpark. And I envy that, because who doesn't love to just sit there and watch baseball? But you don't just sit and watch the ball game. You sit and draw while you're at the ball game.
Yes.
And, we're talking about your minimalist art, but you also have these amazing Ballpark Princesses, which are, because of your Disney license, Disney princesses, and they're in the jerseys of one of the 2 teams playing. They're like, where did that idea come from?
So if we roll back, actually, I'm not licensed by Disney. Lucas has different brands
okay.
work with. So the Disney princesses specifically, I'm not licensed to do that. So I'm a big Disney fan. I've always been, I live across from street from Disneyland, and I hear fireworks every night. So I was going to the ballparks, and I knew that as an artist, I need to be where I'm inspired, and I can smell, see, feel all the joy of what I love sports for. So I would always bring my sketchbook with me, and I've just found that there was a lot of dads brought their daughters. That was always the thing. If I started drawing a Disney princess, their dads and the daughters would come by and say, "Hey, can my daughter sit down and watch you draw these for a while?" She doesn't want to watch the baseball game, so she'll sit there and draw with you. And I would say, "Hey, you know what? I'm done the drawing. Here you go. Here's the drawing." And I just saw the joy that brought, not only to the little girl, but to the dad who said, "Now my daughter has a great experience at the ballpark, and now it's important to her." Yeah, and that builds her as a sports fan, builds him as a prouder dad. So that happened quite a bit. I feel like if I drew things that little boys wanted, they want their baseball cards signed. They want talk to players. So that's kind of where the Ballpark Princess thing came by. And you're a father, you're a girl dad, so you can understand that sort of that joy of your daughter going, "Hey, can we go to the ballpark or go to the hockey game, because that's because that's what you love, and I have good experiences from that. So that's where the Ballpark Princess giveaway started. It's just to help bring shared joy with my artwork, and I've seen it grow and resonate, and people have messaged me over the years and just said that that's how much it means to them as a father, as a female sports fan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I just kept on going and doing more and more giveaways. It's just kind of my thing now. And I use social media to help grow that. And it became a part of my brand. It's strangely enough that when I pick up a pen and pencil, like Ariel seems to be the first thing that comes on my hand anyway. So that was kind of normal for me. But yeah, it's been an interesting ride. And also with the other thing with social media is I feel that without human connection and actually meeting people, it's you can message back and forth and you can have Twitter friends. But a lot of it is great that we can actually meet in real life and just talk baseball or talk hockey and actually create a connection with somebody. And I've got great friends because of giveaway or meeting at the ballpark.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say it because I was at the Stadium Series in Raleigh, and I don't know how the heck I didn't see your tent because it was right by the exit of the Fan Fest too. So I'm like, I know how I missed it because I bought my shirts for me, my dad, my son, and my hockey puck on the app, and we picked it up in the stadium so that I could avoid that ridiculously long line at the merch tent at the Fan Fest. And I think that line was just so long, I didn't see your tent. Because we went to every other spot at the Fan Fest because I was like, I want to meet Preston because I've been following your art for a while. And more importantly, my daughter has too, because, like you said, I'm a girl dad, but she loves art. She always doodling, always drawing. Her dream is to be an animator for Pixar. In fact, we're looking at colleges. She wants to go to the Savannah College of Art and Design in Georgia. But when I found you, I was like, you need to follow Preston because he does some really cool stuff. And she loves the minimalist stuff, but like the Ballpark Princesses, that speaks to her because she loves Disney. She's always watching Disney movies. And she loves Star Wars. So she loves the minimalist Star Wars. And it's like, yeah, it's just your art, like you said, it's not just for the baseball fan. It helps bring, dad and daughter together at times too. So it's really cool.
I love that. That's what better, like, as an artist, my job, I always believe my job is to, I think everyone has something creative inside of them that you just need to get out. I'm able to get it out. So I'm able to just, if I want something, I can draw it. And I'm almost projecting that for other people when they see my art and they're like, that inspires them or it brings them joy. A lot of times I just feel because it's already in them that they're just unable to draw it. So I'm able to express something in the world that's trapped inside of you. And I feel the same way about hockey players or dancers or any people in the arts in the world where is that our role is to express things that we are unable to express in a way. So to hear that your daughter watches that and sees that, and that's my goal as a sports artist, to express things in sports in an emotional way that you never thought about Wrigley Field or that side. Or my shirts print, which is that side, All-Star Game print.
Well, and it's fun too, because when COVID hit, I remember you put a few coloring pages out there of the princesses. So I printed them up because my buddy Charles from Bone Jack Designs, he's got a really unique style too, and he draws goalies. And so he sent me a few to put on my blog page for people, just because kids couldn't go out anymore. So let's give them some coloring pages. So I printed them out for my daughter, and it was really fun because even though she knows these teams, like she wasn't going to go with the regular team colors. Like she just went with like these random colors and everything else, but she enjoyed those and they were fun for her. She colored them in. Now she's a little bit older. She's got her iPad. She's drawing all kinds of stuff. I think her last drawing that she put on her Instagram was The Last of Us, or I think she started watching. So she did something for that. And she just did another Star Wars one, but it's just kind of fun. It's fun to watch. Like you said, it brings joy to people. And when you're able to see that, like you are, it's on a whole nother level. I mean, obviously as an artist, you want to make money, but I'm sure seeing those smiles on the kids is just as good at times. And I say that when you know the bank account is okay, you can say it's just as good at times. But when you're like, hey, hang on, I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to eat today, that's a different story.
It's funny actually you say that, because I feel like I remember there was a moment when I was talking to a couple, my cousin actually, where we're saying, if I were rich, I would donate this much money. If I was rich, I would donate this. I would give away that. And I'd be very philanthropical if I ever got rich.
Yeah.
And then I kind of sat there and went, wait a second, why are we disclosing that we need to be rich to actually give things away? Like, why? And I think that was a little bit of an aha moment right around that Ballpark Princess time. It's like, this is a piece of art that I just need a piece of paper and a pencil and I can draw. Like, that's something, it may be easy and simple for me, but it means a lot to somebody else. And especially a random person. And I think that's a lot to do with too, is just, is a heart of giving can be done regardless how much money you have. You have something to give. So drawing is what I have to give.
Yeah,
maybe teaching like seeing kids struggling playing hockey, just giving tippers and showing how to do something is a gift that you can give another kid, someone else. It means nothing to you, but it means the world for someone else.
I taught my daughter how to drive, and we both survived. So I think that was a gift. She got her license last week, and it's like, we made it through. Jesus only had to take the wheel 3 times during that process. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So many times when we think of philanthropy, we think of dollars and cents, and we don't realize that there's other things we can give, from our time to our skills, and it makes such a big difference. And sometimes money isn't what's needed. You're so true. So I have to ask, because you've had the issues with the licensing, and Disney is very strict with their licensing. How do they feel about the Ballpark Princesses? I got to guess because you're not charging for them, there's kind of a gray area there.
We don't. I don't actually sell them, honestly.
Right.
I mean, there's a handful of times where people buy them, but in the artist world, a one of one is you don't need to ever license a one of one, an original. And I give them away. That's kind of the thing. And they both the MLB and the NHL have been supportive of it. My messages have always been very consistent. I'm at the ballpark, I'm giving it away, and my purpose is to build children, girls and women in sports. And I've been lucky enough that they've supported me across the board on that. Both Disney and MLB and NHL have been very supportive of that.
Now, you call them Ballpark Princesses, but every once in a while we get a WWE princess too.
Yeah.
Those are kind of a fun crossover, and I can just picture a Disney princess in the ring, going at it with her villain.
Well, we've actually trademarked the name WINS, which stands for Women in Sports, and I will probably start transitioning a little more toward a brand that we can actually publicly promote a little more as a business. I think we have some athletes on board that might be interested in helping support female athletes, help support that. So it is there's going to be a transition point. The WWE was licensed with wrestling for a while, so that's where those came from. But you'll probably see a little more of that type of artwork, more under the WINS brand than it is the Ballpark Princess brand.
No, I'm excited to see it because they're all awesome. In fact, I'm looking at it on the website right now. I mean, you've got some from the Stadium Series and the All-Star Game, and God, it's a shame they couldn't get you into that hockey game after they gave you a spot in the Fan Fest. They couldn't bring you into the game. That's such a shame.
It is too bad. It was a busy event, though. It was for those that weren't at the Stadium Series. Carolina Hurricanes fans are rabid, and it was Black Friday straight for 4 hours for us. So it was pretty cool.
It was, well, and getting into the game, I mean, it was a great venue for hockey because it was like 50 degrees at game time, beautiful sunset. Our tickets were on the side of the benches, kind of high up, but they were at the blue line. And I'm sure, you know, when you go to hockey, sitting higher up is what you want to do. And it was just a great time, but be able to experience it with my son and my dad is what made it special. And, you know, my son, he's like, we've been to a few games, but this atmosphere is crazy. But then just last week, we went to the Minnesota high school hockey tournament for the Class A championship game because his son's school was playing in it and they wound up winning. And so on the drive home, I'm like, so what experience was better? He's like, Dad, we can't compare them. You know, it's like, you've got the Stadium Series, the venue is amazing. He's like, but the experience here, because that game, because he goes to Matamidi, both kids do, and they were playing Warroad, which is up near the Canadian border. Mm-hmm. That's where J.O.C. went, and Warroad was undefeated. And they come out and they pull ahead, and they're staying close. So one of the World players scores a hat trick. Now a Matamidi player scores a hat trick. It's late in the game, lasts like 4 or 5 minutes. They're down by 2. They score a goal. They wave it off. They call it goaltender interference. It's very questionable. So they're like, crap. Now, but then they wind up clawing their way back. And the first goal they score after that one that's waved off, the player that scores it turns to the referee and he's going, goal, goal, goal. It's like, oh my God, be careful, kid. You could get a
misconduct.
But the ref, to his credit too, every goal after that, he just stood behind the net and held it for like 30 seconds. Like no question there. But they wind up tying the game. They go to double overtime and win. And usually overtime, it's a crap goal that goes. This was just a beautiful goal. And the whole team comes, they celebrate in front of the student section. And one of the Matamidi students was able to climb up and over the glass and get on the ice with them. And it's like, oh my God. And everybody's like, what's happening? He didn't get arrested. He just got a 2-year ban from the XL Energy Center. And I think is more of they say it's a ban, but they said they had to do something to discourage it. And then I asked my son after Monday, I was like, so any extra disciplinary for the kid at school? And he kind of started laughing because he's actually at baseball tryouts right now. And he goes, he got a 2-game suspension from baseball. That's it. I was like, okay, that's fair. Because I think he was a junior or something. It's like, that's fair. It's just kind of saying, okay, what you did was actually kind of funny. And once he got on there, he just celebrated with his classmates. He wasn't being a jerk or anything. It was like, we got to send a message really doing anything to you. It's like, all right, that's cool. But God,
that's good. That's good of them. That's awesome. Those experiences, I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was such a class. I mean, they were talking about the game on Spit and Chicklets this week. It was one of those types of games where it's just cool. So we've been talking a while. I want to be mindful of time. I close out every episode asking every guest 10 questions. They're the same questions I've asked every guest. So Kelly Rudy, Eddie Belfour, they've answered these same questions. And the first one is, and this might be difficult for you because you've kind of started playing hockey later on when you may not have had a coach, but I'm guessing you probably played some organized sports in your younger days. So this kind of is a gray area. What's the craziest coaching moment from your playing days where a coach just lost it? They went full on Mike Keenan.
I don't have anything really like that. I'm unfortunately going to have to pass. I don't recall. It's been so long since I was in high school sports.
That's all right. That's all right. So the next one, I know you'll probably have an answer for because you're an artist. What's your favorite all-time goalie mask?
Favorite all-time goalie mask. I was a big Mike Lemieux fan when I was younger, and he had that long white mask. I was a big fan of that. But when it comes to the artwork, I would let me think. I think Beezer's helmet was one of my favorites.
Yeah, and Don Strauss, he was the one that painted. I had him on the pod. One of the few non-goalies that's been on the podcast was Don Strauss because he's a racing guy. And, he grew up in auto racing, and he just saw these goalie masks and was like, "There's got to be a better way to make them." So he designed that armadillo mask.
Barra came into my gallery once, and we talked goalie masks, and he actually designed his own. He actually was an art student, a graphic art student.
Oh, really?
Beforehand, and he designed that original goalie mask that he had at the early years of the Ducks.
That is awesome to know, because I'm trying to get him on the podcast, because Anaheim Ducks social media manager is actually a goalie, and I've had him on, Tyler. But yeah, so Don Strauss, he painted that mask, and it's funny because Beezer's first mask for the Panthers was more of a lifelike looking panther, and Beezer loved it. But the Panthers were like, we want something that looks a little more team branded, so that one never saw the ice. And instead, he created an iconic goalie mask. But you talk about the Mike Liut one. There's a beer leaguer up here who subs for me once in a while, that I had him on the podcast not too long ago, that wears a Mike Liut style mask to this day. And I'm like, Darren, you are something else.
A classic.
Yeah, it is like, and I asked him, I was like, technically it's not allowed under USA hockey rules. He's like, but it's beer league, and the refs just come up to me and they're like, you're going to wear that? And I say, yeah. And they're like, okay, you're an adult. Like, it's up to you. So what is your favorite rink that you've played at?
Favorite rink I've played at? Every year I used to rent out a Rogers Arena, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, every year I would do a Rogers Arena skate with all my buddies.
Oh, fun.
I know a lot of your guys have played hockey, but who's been on the podcast, but some of the people who have listened who have not been on an NHL ice rink, the ice is special. It's just put together so nicely. You going straight, it's straight, and then you turn, and your skates just pick up. NHL ice is unbelievable, and I recommend anyone, if you have a chance to skate and play hockey on NHL ice, do it.
Well, and what they don't tell you is how warm it is out there because of those TV lights. When they turn them on, it's like, oh my God. Because I played at what's now the All-State Arena where the Chicago Wolves play. And it was the same, like, I played the second half of the game and I was already sweating just sitting on the bench because of those TV lights. It's crazy. And back when we were out in Raleigh, I was talking to some of the people we were with, and they're like, oh, it's probably too warm for the ice down there. It's like, no, this is almost perfect ice conditions. I said, because across the street inside that building, because of those lights, it's actually hotter down at ice level than it is out here. And they're like, no way. It's like, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
One of my dreams as a artist is I wanted to actually have a Preston drop in at every NHL rink, travel every rink and go, all right, this Thursday we're going to be at PNC, and sign up and bring your gear, and let's have a drop in game after the rink. So I've always dreamed of doing that. Maybe one day, that's one season I'll just do a whole tour of 32 drop-in hockey, beer league hockey for everybody.
If only you knew somebody at the NHL.
If only.
Well, it's funny because we're getting ready to maybe sell our house and move out of state. And I was talking to, at the high school hockey tournament, they have the Let's Play Hockey Expo, which is a bunch of vendors. It's awesome. And one of my buddies with Northern Lids, he's got like an old Cooper hat and some of these other cool ones. I was telling him, if we move, I want to get a skate together with, some of the people I've met since I've lived in Minnesota that I enjoy playing hockey with. And said, so just know I might be reaching out to you. He's like, well, where's it going to be? So I don't know, probably TCO up by me or something. He's like, why not here at the X? I was like, because I don't know anybody to get me that. He's like, I know a few people. He's like, let me know. I was like, yeah, I'll let you know, because that's one of the rinks I haven't skated at yet is the XL Energy Center. It's like, I'll let you know for sure if I'm getting this skate together. And I'll be sure to invite you too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe if that happens, I'll let you know. So, that can be one of your drop-ins. So what's your favorite stick that you've ever used?
Favorite stick?
Yeah.
Actually, my first stick was the Christian metal shaft with the
old two-piece.
The old two-piece. We bought it just because I think Gretzky just started using them in the 90s. That was a big thing. We ran out and grabbed the metal, and I never used it for 10 years. And then when I started playing hockey, I was like, I have a stick, and it was heavy. It was the old aluminum sticks were heavy. So I have very fond memories of that stick.
And the best part
I use
about
mostly Bauer right now.
the best thing about those aluminum sticks, the two pieces, is they were heavy, but after a while you'd look at them from the side and they were like bowed, and you'd have to turn the blade around so you could bow it back the other way.
Yeah.
Now it's funny being up here in Minnesota. Like my brother-in-law, he played high school hockey, he played junior hockey and college hockey. So my in-laws had all of these old sticks left around, but they were just the shafts. And my in-laws for a while had a hobby farm, and my father-in-law was using the old shafts as roost for the chickens to sit on as they laid their eggs. I was like, I'm going into the barn, and here's like 5 Christian shafts just sitting there. I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is not how you treat a hockey stick. But that's life in Minnesota for you. So what is your favorite hockey memory?
My favorite hockey memory?
Yeah.
Playing, finally winning a beer league cup was meant. I think it took 6 years. I don't think I've only won one in my entire beer league's professional career. So that was pretty special for me, especially getting all the guys together, playing with that core group, and for 6 or 7 years, and then we finally won one. So that, for me, that was beer league. My very first NHL game was getting so excited. Canucks versus Kings in the Pacific Coliseum. Cliff Ronning scored a goal in overtime, and he threw a stick over the glass, and that was unbelievable to see hockey for the first time for me.
Billy Crystal talks about the first time he goes to Yankee Stadium, and you're walking through, and the old ballparks, he had the tunnels, and walking through the tunnel and seeing that grass for the first time. Well, my first NHL game was at the old Chicago Stadium, and it was the same thing. Walking through there, and you walk through the tunnel, and you see that ice was so white, and it looked, even though the old Chicago Stadium had a smaller rink than other NHL stadiums, it still looked like the biggest sheet of ice I had ever seen. It's like, and it was on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve in the last year at the old barn, and I was a big Eddie Belfour fan. And I knew, first goalie out on the ice is starting, and when they come out for warmups, and Jeff Hackett steps onto the ice first, and I was so upset. And then I wound up having Eddie Belfour on the podcast, and I was telling him this, and he goes, I was probably just as pissed as you were because I wanted to play. But yeah, those first games, it's the same thing. And it's fun as a parent because I remember taking my son to his first game, and my dad was in town and the Blackhawks were in town. So my dad brought him a Jonathan Taves jersey, and 3 of us are going into the game, and we're all wearing our jersey. And I got this just beautiful picture of my dad and my son from behind, and they're holding hands, walking into the rink. My son's like 3 years old. And it's just like, that right there is what it's all about. And we went down by the glass during warm-up so you could see him. We got a puck, and then we go to our seats, because I always get tickets up high because it's better than when you're down on the glass, you don't see as much, because if you're on the side, you got the benches in the way. They're not good seats. Save your money, sit up top. That's my advice. But we sit down, and right before the game starts, there's like 6 21, 22-year-old guys sit down. You can tell they pregame. And I look at my dad, it's like, oh, this is going to be a long night. Yeah. Couldn't have had a better group of guys behind us. Like we were really? This is back, when the Hawks were winning Stanley Cups and go play in the Wild every year in the playoffs. So there was good banter back and forth. But at one point, one of the guys actually accidentally said shit. And like, he was so apologetic. He's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry I said that. It was a 1-0 Blackhawks win, and it was a Marian Hossa goal. It was a turnover right at the blue line, and he took like 3 steps and just sniped it. And the 3 of us, we stand up, and my son's, got his arms up. He turns around. Every one of those guys gave him a high five. And it was funny because after the game, I turned around, I said, fellas, I got to say, when you guys sat down, and one guy goes, you were worried that we were going to be a bunch of jerks, weren't you? I go, yeah. He goes, well, we kind of are. But I said, but you guys were on your best behavior, and I appreciate you. You created a really good, environment for his first game. So I made sure to thank him, but it was like, oh my, but it's one of those memories we have of that first game. But to get back on track, what is your? Or that was the one I just asked. Favorite hockey memory. So, what is the best chirp you've heard on the ice, off the ice, directed at you, not directed at you?
Sorry, that kind of broke up a bit. Can you say that again?
What's the best chirp you've heard, either on the ice, off the ice, directed at you, not directed at you?
There's several that just come to me, but I just
That's what I love about this one. You can just see the memories coming back to people. It's like,
I've said some pretty things we don't want to say out loud that come to mind.
Yeah. Not very Disney-esque.
No, not very Disney-esque. Not something that I would be proud to say verbally right now. I'm gonna have to pass on that because everything that I can think of is
that's fair.
Nothing that I could say out loud.
I've had a few where they're like, I'm going to tell you, but it's after you're done recording. And I'm like, yes, we could not have gotten away with that. You would have been canceled in a heartbeat.
But it's a little bit of the cancel culture. It's a little bit of that, what says on the ice is the heat of the moment. But let me just put it this way. They find it you get a really aha moment when you say some racial things about your own race. And they're like, wait, what? He just said what? He just said that? And,
yes.
And they're all fun, tongue in cheek, but that's always the funny reaction. But if I can get them to like not focus on hockey for a second, then I have an advantage. So
to your point, it's what's said on the ice stays on the ice, because we all know that no matter how foul and bad it gets, it's either out of frustration or most often out of humor. And we know that we have a weird sixth sense of humor when we're on the ice and in the locker room, and that's to be respected.
Yeah. And you can tell when something is on the ice and it's brought off the ice, that's when you know there's a problem.
Yep.
That's when you know there's a problem. But when it's set on the ice and you shake hands at the end of the game and you're just like,
yeah. There was one in high school that one of my like you said, there's that fine line where my high school teammate said it, and we were all like, oh my God, you just went there. But that was hilarious. And it's like, there's just that time and place. So what is the worst post-game beer you've had?
Sorry, the worst post-game beer?
Yeah.
Oh man, it's sitting in my fridge right now. It's a Guinness Nitro coffee.
Okay.
And that was terrible.
Great beer, bad for after
Pilsner.
Yeah, I'm a beer guy, so I know Pilsners.
Yeah. So when the guys bring Pilsner, we're all like, "Ooh, yeah, thanks, but no thanks." You cheaped out. But I have this Nitro, and the guy was just throwing it in everyone's bags, and I still have it in my fridge because I won't touch it. It's to me, it's terrible. Guinness. I love Guinness. I love coffee. Just put them together, and I don't really. It's not that great. We had a guy that brought Fireball every single game. He would buy a Fireball. I love that. That was hilarious. That was great. We don't share drinks like that anymore, but I remember that that guy would always bring a bottle of Fireball.
I subbed for a team, and they would show up with just a bunch of the little nips of the different, and they're offering me Fireball and other stuff before the game, and I'm going, do you guys want me to see one puck or three? Just let me know. And they're like, yeah, we'll offer this up after the game. I was like, yeah, not before the game. So
here's my question for you then. How do you guys do beers after the game? Do you do the rotation, or do you does one guy bring all the beers and everyone pays for it?
It depends on the team. I know some teams that almost have a schedule, like your youth soccer team, for snacks after the game. They're like, this game is this guy, this, yeah. Now the team I'm on, it's just kind of like, it's nobody really ever talks about it, but somebody always brings it. Being the goalie, they don't charge me, so I try and bring it, 2 or 3 times this season.
Yeah.
And I try not to bring the cheap stuff. I try and bring something that's a little bit better, but not like I love Guinness, but I'm not going to bring that because it's a terrible post-game beer. It's too heavy.
Yeah.
But there are some teams, like I said, that will just put the calendar out there and it's like, you've got beer tonight.
I got so tired of people not bringing beers. What I did is I brought the beer every game.
Yep.
I will not forget. I'm the team captain. I will bring the beer every game. So we had hockey pucks. Oh, sorry, we had poker chips, and it was $1 a chip. I just bring tons of chips with me, and people just go throw $10 in, grab 10 poker chips, and then every time they grab the beer, they just throw a poker chip in. It wasn't really a matter of making money. It was just an easy way to just keep track of what's going on. If you lost your poker chips, sorry, you gotta go buy some more off me. So that was how we did it after a while, because I got tired of people forgetting.
Well, and I like our team captain. I think it's $150 for the season, which is really not that bad for as many games as we play. But he bases that price off of knowing some guys might only show up for 1 or 2 and not pay him. So he goes, if everybody pays, then I have extra money. And he goes, that doesn't go in my pocket. I just bring beer more often this season. So it's like, it works out. So when you tape your stick, do you go heel to toe or toe to heel?
Sorry, you froze up again.
Oh, when you tape your stick, do you go toe to heel or heel to toe?
There's a right and wrong answer, right? I go toe to heel.
For goalies, yes, I say there's an answer, but you primarily tape your stick for playing forward. And when I move forward, I also go toe to heel. But when most goalies, it's heel to toe.
Oh, okay. I actually didn't know that.
And I've talked to quite a few, especially the ones of our vintage. It's because when we played, we had the wooden sticks and you had to protect that heel. So we always just started up there for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
Black tape too, as a forward, always black tape for me.
Yeah.
Just because the goalies can't see the puck. It's just that momentary. If the puck melds with your tape, it's just a little bit more distracting.
When I coached, I would tell our forwards to use black tape, but I always told my defensemen to use white tape because they're trying to help the goalie clear the rebounds. I want them to see it. Yeah, I all day I'll say forward should use black tape, and my defensemen should always use white tape. I shouldn't say always. I almost only use white tape on my stick. I had black a while back because I had free roll, but in high school, our school colors are maroon and orange, and I would buy orange tape at the beginning of the season out of the back of USA Hockey Magazine, found this place. And I had orange tape in high school. So that was one of the few exceptions. So what's your favorite number to wear and why?
I wear 50. I wore 16 a lot for Trevor Linden when I was younger, but I actually wear 56. My favorite baseball, and it's an anime show, and it's called Major. It's about a kid who in Japan, it's one of Otani's favorite animes. And the main character, Shigenogoro, wore 56. So I wear 56. That also leads into the beer thing because I almost never have to bring beer when they're using jersey numbers.
That works. Yeah, that's awesome. So the last question I have is, what advice do you have for young goalies?
For young goalies, well, definitely see as many pucks as you can. You can't be on the ice enough. Don't be scared of playing higher level than your ability. It's never the goalie's fault. So even if you are the worst player on the ice, the hockey players won't blame you as much. But even the high-end quick shots they're done by the better players are actually easier to save, and you learn a lot. And so just got to see as many pucks as possible.
Yeah, I've always said it's easier to play up than it is to play down. The only difference playing up is things are coming at you quicker. But the plays are happening the way you anticipate them to. It's just happening a heck of a lot quicker. But when you play down, plays aren't happening the way you expect them to. And you get caught out of position because of that.
And the communication, I've always say, just talk to the other guys, talk to your defensemen, let them know what's going on when they're coming around the net. Just talk. That's my advice.
Absolutely. Well, Preston, it's been really fun getting to talk to you, especially after following you for as long as I have. I feel like I've got a new hockey friend, and when I'm at the events that you're going to be at, I know I can swing by and say hi.
And you're what team are you a fan of?
I'm a Blackhawks fan because I grew up in Chicago, so I'm a Blackhawks Cubs fan. I like all Chicago teams except for the White Sox. I have my morals.
Like, this is true. You're never one or the other. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Maybe there might be a Ballpark Princess coming your way, or
that would be amazing. I know it won't wind up on my office wall. It will wind up in my daughter's room. I know that.
Perfect.
Well, again, thank you, and enjoy the rest of your evening here. You're out in the West Coast, so you have a little more of it left than I do.
I have a little more time. I'm gonna get caught up on the final on March Madness, and
it's probably
not 2 weeks before I head to London for Star Wars. So
how fun! Big one. I was gonna say it's probably not snowing there like it is here.
No, not in California.
We've had so much snow this year; it's ridiculous. I'm just checking my bracket, and it hasn't been busted yet. So I got that going for me. So, all right. Well, you have a good one, and we'll be in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's awesome.
Thank you. Hockey. Yeah. Bye now.
Bye.
I've been a fan of Preston's work for a while, as has my daughter. In fact, I showed her his work at the beginning of the pandemic, and she loved the Ballpark Princesses, but then discovered his minimalist work too, and I think I've seen some influence in her work. I was able to connect with Preston, and I think now I have a new hockey friend who I almost met in person at the Stadium Series. Be sure to follow Preston on Instagram at @PrestonDesigns and on Twitter at Poot Poot. That's POOT. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube simply by searching for Wash Up Goalie, and I'll pop up. Visit washedupgoalie.com for some great hockey-related content, my beer league hockey video highlights, and of course, all podcast episodes. If you want some Wash Up Goalie or Tendy Talk apparel, be sure to visit my Threadless shop by clicking the merchandise link on the website. If you like this podcast, go listen to the BLPA Big Show. It's the OG BLPA Podcast Network show where a couple of beer league players talk beer league hockey, draft experience shenanigans, and exploits from around the game. Be sure to check out the full lineup of hockey-related podcasts on the Hockey Podcast Network as well. There are too many shows to list here, but shows like the Chicago Tomahawk Podcast, the Tell It Abs It Is podcast, and the Jake Jackets podcast can all be found. If you're looking for something good to read, get yourself a subscription to Vintage Tendy magazine. Published quarterly by episode 28 guest Brent Denor, the magazine takes a deep dive into a goalie, usually from the 80s or 90s. I need to thank the band Zambonis for allowing me to use their music on my episodes. You can download their music on iTunes or wherever you stream music from. I'm always working on lining up other goalies to talk to. If you are a goalie or have connections to a goalie who I should talk to, shoot me an email at washupgoalie39@gmail.com or send me a DM on social media. Let's not forget, if you're a brand that wants to sponsor the show, be sure to reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk. And finally, if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment on the podcast platform you're listening on. It's a quick action on your part that helps others find Tendy Talk. So, until next time, keep your stick on the ice, your body square to the puck.
Checked out Ketchell's Pond. Tarkin.
Yeah, Dave.
Hey, have you checked out the pond today?
Funny you ask. I was just down there this morning.
Yeah, any good news?
Well, Dave, the pond